Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Good evening, and welcome to TEDxKing's College School. I'm Jet.
And I'm Hafsa, and we'll be your hosts. We're delighted to have you here with us tonight, whether you're here in person, in the watch party in the Great Hall, or joining us online.
The theme for this evening is Enlightening Minds, a celebration of academic curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge beyond the classroom.
We'll hear from 9 of our talented pupils, each offering innovative ideas and thought-provoking perspectives.
So, let's embark on our journey of exploration. The first speaker of tonight will be Gyaan, from the lower fifth. With a fascination for science, he'll explore an extraordinary state of matter that could, one day, power our dreams. Let's welcome to the stage, Gyaan.
Imagine a future, fueled by the sun, trapped in a machine, providing us with limitless energy, where every inhale is of cleaner air and all waste will be converted into a new fuel to be reused over and over again, rather than ending up in landfill. Our universal reach could stretch beyond the solar system, and all harmful illnesses could be eradicated in the blink of an eye. This isn't some fantasy out of a science fiction novel. This is the promise of a world functioning on the supercharged fuel that is plasma. This energy source could bring upon a new era, the end of fossil fuels, and a fuel from the stars. Plasma fusion is the key to limitless clean power, which impersonates the stars themselves. But what is plasma? Plasma is the fourth state of matter, characterized by the presence of a significant portion of charged particles. MIT scientists describe plasma as superheated matter, so hot that the electrons are ripped away from the atom, forming an ionized gas. This plasma can be found in stars, nebulas, and the auroras, and is not to be confused with the plasma found in blood or lightning. If you're still confused, don't worry about it. The only plasma that I'd heard of until a few years ago was for the old TV on my parents' living room wall. But the plasma revolution has already begun. With technological advancements like ITER, the world's largest plasma fusion reactor, the dawn of the plasma age could be ushered in as early as 2025. However, plasma's superpowers stretch far beyond energy and have technological uses too. Imagine tiny chips of foldable phones printed using plasma in immense detail. We could forge strong, lightweight materials in its fiery embrace that could revolutionize aircrafts. How? We can replace the mechanical flaps and pass an electrical current through electrodes, which generates an ionized field along the wingtips that is better than hydraulic flaps at increasing lift, drag, and allowing planes to fly at lower speeds. Plasma also holds many medicinal uses. It can sterilize medical instruments in an instant, helping to protect and save lives. Plasma sterilization is a process using an ionized gas to disinfect these instruments. The plasma is generated by applying an electric field to the gas, creating a plasma cloud that destroys all the harmful microorganisms. This can also help with the longevity of prosthetics. Plasma even has promise when it comes to battling cancer, potentially holding the key to destroying this harmful mutation. Plasma-activated media is a liquid which is created when plasma is exposed to another liquid. This targets the cancer cells with pinpoint precision, forming a reactive oxygen species that damages the cancer cell's DNA, leading to their death. Our future does not have to be suffocated by the chokehold of pollution either. Plasma air and water purification can cleanse the world of contamination, leaving it crystal clean. Plasma air purifiers emit positive and negative ions that filter the air from pollutants. They work on the principles of ion emission, electric technology attraction, and filters. We can even turn waste into wonder, using plasma to convert it into valuable fuels and chemicals. Finally, space exploration will be able to soar to previously unimaginable heights. Supercharged engines will be able to propel our spacecraft with increased efficiency, sowing the seeds for quick and easy missions to Mars and beyond. With the help of plasma, we can propel our rockets, while the magnetic field generated by the plasma captures all the wasted energy and reuses it over and over again. With the help of plasma, we can make a trip to Mars in a staggering 27 days, compared to 5 to 8 months currently. We could have lunar factories producing resources in space, fueling our ambitions in the stars. So if this is such an amazing resource, then why aren't we using it yet all the time? The answer is, in short, that as it is a new technology, it is still expensive, and there are lots of things that we do not know about this mystical state of matter. Including the R&D, plasma will cost trillions of dollars to replace all other sources of energy and become our primary energy source. However, when we get it up and running, the hope is that plasma will cost from 1 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour, cheaper than we currently pay for electricity at a current 25 cents per kilowatt hour. This makes plasma cheaper than both fossil fuels and solar energy. This can be our future. The tantalizing promise of plasma points to a healthier, cleaner world, brimming with endless possibilities. Let's harness its power and build a future shining as bright as 1,000 stars.
Thank you, Gyaan, for beginning our evening with that truly fascinating exploration of plasma. Up next is Alec, also from the lower fifth. Inspired by his own personal experiences, he invites us to consider the purpose of culture. Let's welcome Alec.
We are what we eat. You eat junk, and you'll end up with a junk body. This applies to a lot in our lives. Everything we consume influences us in more ways than we can imagine. Bad food in this case would be TikTok or short form, while good food could be, let's take a play. Last year, I acted, sung, and I even had to dance in one of my school's productions, Billy Elliot. But it was so much more than just a distraction. It's being there, on stage, surrounded by the people, the lights. It's people coming together to work on sound, directing, costume design. It can even be watching. Seeing people I had spent so much time with, becoming different characters with different lives, all contributing to a story that they cared about, that I had come to care about. There was nothing forcing me on stage to care about Billy, the life he lived, the future he could have, yet somehow, on the night, I did. That is what drama did for me. Most importantly, it was being someone other than myself. And it's not just a play that does that. It could be a good book, or a movie, or even a meaningful song. All things that consume a considerable portion of our daily lives. Maybe it is just nice for entertainment, getting to experience something else. Or maybe it helps us see the world through someone else's eyes. Maybe one day, I don't know, you're on a train and someone's rude to you. Say they push past you. Instead of being rude back, barging past, giving them the death stare, you're able to see in that moment that maybe their day is going much worse than yours. Maybe they're having the worst day of their lives. So you push past that mean thought and move on. Just that split second of empathy and perspective is so important. Being able to look at someone and try to understand, try to see what they might be going through, that is what separates interesting people from others. It's what can create collaborative societies or close friends. Think about why philosophers are always depicted reading or thinking. Yet, we see them as some of the most interesting and empathic people today. Consuming culture can teach us about a lot of things. One of them being that maybe the world doesn't revolve around us. This might seem like it diminishes our pride, our confidence, our sense of self. Or does it help us understand everything going on around us and allow us to become better company? Understanding that you don't need to always be the main character or don't always need to be in the spotlight can make you a better person to be around. Let's talk about movies, culture we consume quite regularly. The Marvel Universe was a big part of my childhood, still is. I've easily watched 20, 25 of their movies. But no matter how many times I watch Iron Man fly through the air or Thor smash through 1,000 people in a minute, it has never gotten so close to my heart like a great movie like Good Will Hunting ever has. Seeing a hurt young man and a hurt therapist finally coming to understand each other evoked so much crushing emotion in me, something I never quite felt before. Or seeing a friend know someone so well and see their abilities and give them such perfect advice, that left a lasting impression on me. These movies allow me to see so deeply into someone else's lives, their beliefs, their feelings, that they make up a big part of who I am today. And I think it's why we find culture so addictive. It's why we're willing to spend hours binging through a TV show just to find out what happens next. Or spend days in silence reading a book series, learning more about the characters with every word. We are so inherently hungry to learn more, to understand more. And that is why it's so important to think about what we feed our minds. While spending 2 hours on TikTok or Reels isn't necessarily going to make you a worse person, it certainly won't offer us as much perspective as a good book or a poem will. So, next time you are on Netflix, or you have these small, seemingly insignificant decisions, just remember that we are a reflection of the culture we consume. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec, for that introspective talk. Our next speaker will be the youngest speaker of tonight, Rehan, from Year 8, who has conducted an eye-opening investigation into some of our favourite snacks. Prepare to rethink your next bite as he reveals some surprising findings. Let's welcome Rehan.
What do you call a chocolate bar full of poison? A bestseller. I thought it'd be a good idea to start my speech with a joke. Unfortunately, this is anything but. While calling chocolate poisonous may be a bit of a stretch, this is the reality we live in, where a simple pick-me-up could be loaded with hazardous additives. Most of us love the occasional cheeky treat. A bar of chocolate, a packet of crisps, maybe a biscuit. And we're generally pretty good at recognizing that sugary, fatty, and salty snacks are bad for us. But what about hidden dangers? Many of these treats are ultra-processed foods, UPFs, and are loaded with sneaky additives, often linked to health problems such as cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and even mental health issues. These additives make you crave more, making a snack no longer a snack but an addiction. UPFs have been recognized by the World Health Organization as dangerous. They're defined as a formulated edible substance which has gone through several industrial procedures. So when I first heard about UPFs, I mostly ignored it. But slowly I started to flip the packet, read the ingredients, and what I found was unbelievable. So much so that I was burning to investigate. So I did what any normal kid would do in this situation. Go to supermarkets and start scanning products on apps like Yuka or Open Food Facts, which can rate and analyze a product when you scan its barcode. In fact, I scanned over 300 products, and when I analysed the data I'd collected, I was forced to face some shocking truths. So, what did I find? 4 of the 5 most popular chocolates in the UK are hiding nasty additives. Maltesers contain hazardous additives, and dairy milk, flake, and buttons are also considered risky. Alarmingly, 26 of the top 50 chocolates in the UK are considered risky. The most common hazardous additive here was E471, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, an emulsifier which has recently been linked to cancer when consumed in high amounts. 5 of the top 20 biscuits in the UK are also considered risky. This includes Jammy Dodgers, Jaffa Cakes, and even plain old ginger nuts. The biggest culprit here was E450I, disodium diphosphate, a leavening agent which has been linked to kidney and heart disease when consumed in high amounts. Next category, crisps. Let me start with a bit of good news. Surprisingly, simple, lightly salted options from popular companies like Walker's or Kettle actually tend to do better and are rated risk-free. But remember, even if they aren't UPFs, they still may contain too much salt or fat. The main problems with crisps arise is the ones that have way too many flavour enhancers. So what else did I find? Paying more does not guarantee safety. Premium brands such as Hotel Chocolat, Godiva, and Lindt weren't much better. Surprisingly, 8 of the 22 premium brands I compared had additives to avoid. As a general trend, I found that chocolate collection boxes did worse, either due to colour or flavour enhancers. However, the simple dark chocolate bars did better, either due to organic cocoa beans or higher cocoa solids. Finally, beware of healthy claims. You've all seen them plastered in bold on the packaging. High protein, low fat, no sugar. We are led to believe that these are healthier alternatives, when in reality these are often the worst offenders, as they contain artificial sweeteners or other additives. Take a Mars bar, for example. A standard Mars bar only contains 1 risk-free additive. A Mars protein bar, on the other hand, contains 7 additives with 1 hazardous one and rates substantially worse. Even some protein bars that I scanned in a health food store weren't much better. So what can we do? Completely ditching packaged snacks is an option, but life would be boring without the occasional treat. We need to be savvy and make informed decisions. While our favourites may be hiding hazards, we can find alternatives. For example, Doritos. I used to love Doritos and was disheartened to find that they had hazardous additives. But then I found Doritos dippers, which rate a lot better. Interestingly, different countries can also have different formulations of your favourite snack. I compared dairy milk that you can buy here to the one that you can buy in Australia, and I found that the Australian one actually had fewer harmful additives. We need to raise awareness about the hidden dangers in our treats and make smarter food choices. For packaged snacks, flip the packet, read the ingredients. Anything you can't recognise or pronounce should act as a warning. Apps like Yuka or Open Food Facts can help in this. We need to break the cycle together. This is my mission. Let's make it our mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehan. I know next time I fancy a jammy dodger, I'll think twice. Up next is Zoya from the upper sixth. She'll shed light on a powerful tool we all have access to, one that can enhance our brain health and well-being in remarkable ways. Let's put our hands together for Zoya.
What if I told you that one of the most powerful ways to safeguard your future and protect your brains is something you're already doing every night? Or at least, something you should be doing. I'm talking about sleep. And when it comes to sleep, it might be one of the best preventive measures we have in dealing with things like Alzheimer's disease. So just a quick show of hands. Who in this room thinks they actually got more than around 5 hours of sleep last night? And keep your hand up if you got more than 8 hours of sleep. A few less hands, and that's okay. We live in a world where being busy is often celebrated, while sleep is seen as something to sacrifice. And while that's okay, not having enough sleep has such a detrimental impact on us that we don't even seem to realize sometimes. So, how can we use sleep to lower our risk of getting neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's? Well, one of the brain's hidden talents is something called the glymphatic system, and this system kicks into gear when we're in deep sleep. It's kind of like the brain's overnight cleanup crew. It flushes out toxins, including the harmful proteins amyloid beta and tau, and these are proteins that have been linked to Alzheimer's disease. So when we get good, uninterrupted sleep, the brain has the time it needs to get rid of these harmful proteins. But when we don't, these harmful proteins can build up, setting the stage for Alzheimer's. Now, the great news is that emerging research is showing the power of sleep as a preventative measure. One study found that even just one night of quality sleep can dramatically reduce levels of amyloid beta in the brain. And what's more, over time, consistent good sleep has been linked to lower rates of cognitive decline and memory loss. So, while you may have heard that genetics and other factors play a huge role in the development of diseases like Alzheimer's, sleep is an area where we have control. It's a tool that we can use to actively reduce our risk and improve our quality of life. Now, the benefits of sleep go far beyond Alzheimer's prevention. Good sleep boosts memory, enhances creativity, sharpens decision-making, and even strengthens our immune system. When we sleep well, we're better versions of ourselves, emotionally stable, mentally sharper, and resilient in dealing with the challenges of daily life. So, how exactly do we make sure that we're giving our brains the rest that it needs? It starts with improving something called sleep hygiene. And here are some ideas of things that you could try even tonight. 1, stick to a schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. This really helps to regulate your internal body clock, which makes it easier to wake up and fall asleep naturally. 2. Create a sleep-friendly environment. Your bedroom should be cool, dark, and quiet. Kind of like this room, but I hope no one's asleep yet. If noise is an issue, you can use things like headphones to block out the noise. And if light's an issue, it might be an idea to invest in blackout curtains. 3. Limit screen time. Now, I know we've all heard this one before, but the effect of blue light on your brain before you sleep is critical. Reducing blue light exposure from things like your phone, computers, TVs is so critical in ensuring that your brain gets the rest it needs when you sleep. Blue light tricks your brain into thinking that it's still daytime, and this can delay the release in a hormone called melatonin, which tells your brain that it's time to sleep. So, ultimately, you can do all of these things, but it's up to you to figure out what works best. By incorporating these things and practicing good habits, we can not only improve the quality of sleep, but we can give our brains the time it needs to go through all the functions that it does to remove these toxins, to repair and recover, and ultimately protect us from the risk of developing diseases like Alzheimer's. The beauty of sleep is it's a tool that we all have at our disposal. By prioritizing good sleep today, you're investing in a better, brighter future for your brain and your body tomorrow. Remember that sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. So the next time you're on your phone before bed, scrolling, doing whatever it is you're doing, think to yourself, is it really worth it? Do yourself a favor, put yourself first, and just go to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoya, for that talk. I know I'll be tucking myself in early tonight, and the maths revision can wait. Sorry, sir. Our next speaker is Sen, from the lower sixth. Revisiting his own past doubts, he'll share new insights on humanity's future among the stars and the possibilities that await us up there. Let's welcome Sen.
When I was in year 10, I wrote an essay titled "Humans Will Never Live on Mars." I was so proud of it. I was genuinely ready to send it to NASA with a note saying, "You're welcome." I laid out every reason why Mars was a no-go zone. Freezing temperatures, deadly radiation, and oh yeah, the complete lack of oxygen. I thought I had smashed it. But here I am, 2 years later, ready to contradict that entire essay. Now, I know what you're thinking. What happened? Did I get bribed by aliens? No. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, if we can create self-driving cars that somehow don't run over pedestrians, 3D printing, and Greg's sausage rolls, surely we can figure out Mars. Right? Okay, let's break it down. Mars, the red planet. Sounds kind of cool, right? Like one of those made-up Star Wars planets. But here's the reality. Mars is basically like living inside of a giant freezer on the worst camping trip of your life. The temperatures? Minus 70 degrees Celsius. So a North Face jacket and a pair of gloves won't cut it. Then there's the radiation. Mars has no atmosphere, so your SPF 50 will be useless. Let me put it into perspective for you. Let's say it's like you're living inside of a microwave, except instead of popcorn, you're the one getting cooked. Now, quick poll. How many of you like breathing? Everyone? Good. Well, yeah, Mars, you can't really do that there. There's no oxygen, just carbon dioxide, which is great if you're a tree, But unless you're planning to transform into a plant anytime soon, you're going to need a lot of tech just to stay alive. And lastly, but certainly not least, there's gravity. On Mars, you'd weigh around 38% of what you do here on Earth. Sounds fantastic, right? You'd be bouncing around like a human trampoline, but here's the catch. Your muscles would start to weaken faster than I gave up my New Year's gym resolution. So unless you want to look like a human spaghetti noodle, you're going to have to work out 24/7, with your only source of protein being an excreted mixed grill. Ugh. Now, remember my Year 10 essay? The one where I basically said, Mars is a death trap, stay away. Well, despite all the doom and gloom, it turns out I may have been a little over-dramatic. Fast forward a few years, and we're actually making some serious progress towards colonizing Mars, and we may be closer than you'd think. Take NASA's MOXIE experiment, for example. It's this nifty little gadget that's literally turning Mars's carbon dioxide into oxygen. Yeah, we're making breathable air on another planet. I mean, I would explain the science behind this mind-boggling concept to you, but I understand that some of you actually want to get home in time for dinner tonight. And let's not forget about Elon Musk. He's basically turning SpaceX rocket ships into Martian Uber rides. But he's not just planning to send a few astronauts. Oh no. Elon wants to send 1 million people to Mars in the next 20 years. 1 million! And I thought getting 8 hours of sleep was ambitious. So, why Mars? Sure, it's got a couple flaws, but it's actually our best shot at a cosmic escape plan. We're talking a 6-month journey, which is still quicker than some people's daily slog on the M25. Plus, Mars has ice at the poles, which means there's water, and when there's water, there's the potential for life. Or as I like to call it, aliens. And let's not forget about cinematic masterpiece, The Martian. If Matt Damon can whip up a gourmet meal made from potatoes fertilized with his own then I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to survive on Mars too. Now, I know what some of you on the front row are thinking. Why blow billions on space exploration when we could just use that cash to tackle problems here on Earth? Totally valid question. But here's the kicker. The tech we whip up for Mars could also help us fix Earth too. We're talking advanced recycling methods, sustainable energy, renewable farming, the whole shebang. If we can crack code on surviving in the harshest environment out there, we may be able to solve some of our biggest headaches here. Climate change, food shortages, and maybe even the unfixable issue of losing socks in the laundry. So, the answer you have all been waiting for. Will humans ever live on Mars? I'm convinced we will. It won't be a walk in the park, and it's not happening tomorrow, but one thing is for sure. When we dare to dream and work together, we can turn the impossible into a reality. Now, here's an idea that I want to leave with you. Let's just all cast our minds back 100 years ago. We couldn't even fly from London to America. And now look at us today, launching rockets from planet to planet. Think about what we could do in another century, from colonizing Mars to teleportation to floating cities to even being able to order takeout from your toilet. Mars is just the first step. If we can pull this off, the sky isn't even the limit anymore. It's just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sen. Up next is Sebastian from the 4th form. He'll delve into the psychology behind our shopping habits and explore how different purchases can affect our happiness. Let's welcome Sebastian.
Have you bought anything today? A coffee, some groceries, or a book? It's rare to go 5 minutes online nowadays without being bombarded by an advert promoting a product. Each one looks so tempting, but which should we buy and which should we decline? The purchases we make shape the way we live our lives, and they shape our emotions too. On a simple level, purchases can make us happy or sad according to how useful they are to us. Now, obviously, each purchase is going to have a different effect on each individual, but my definition for a good purchase is one that makes us happier or one that adds something to our lives. This all started when I decided to enter the Robert Graves competition. I had to construct an essay question based on 2 of the talks I listened to over the past year. I went for economics and TP, making the question, how do purchases affect our happiness? When you buy something, dopamine is immediately released, giving the buyer a little boost of happiness. But this can often be short-lived, as I'll come to explain later. In the economics talk I listened to, I learned about the 2 types of decisions that we can make. The first accounts for 95% of all our decisions, and it's quick and impulsive. You might use this while answering 8 times 8, or deciding whether to pass or shoot in a game of football. The only problem with this is we sometimes think too quickly and come out to the wrong decision. The second accounts for just 5% of all our decisions, but this is because it takes time and effort to process and evaluate what to do next. You might use this while writing an essay, or trying to work out what you had for lunch 2 days ago. This one makes far fewer mistakes, but takes more time than the first. There are also 3 types of purchases: necessities, thought-through purchases, and poorly chosen purchases. Now, you may see where I'm going with this, but if you don't, I believe the type of decision we make, impulsive or calculated, directly affects the type of purchase we make. Thought-through purchases, poorly chosen purchases, or necessities. Let me explain. Firstly, necessities. These are exceptions on a basic level, as we need them. Like, come on, the type of decision we make isn't going to have the world of difference when deciding over macaroni, cheese, or lasagna for dinner. But feeling as if we should buy another takeaway or overly expensive clothes can often be linked to what type of decision we make, impulsive or calculated. Secondly, the poorly chosen buys. These are often cheaper things, like a bar of chocolate, but they can also be fads. These have been so many things over the years, from a Rubik's Cube to Crocs to even a fidget spinner. Because these things are cheaper, we feel as if they're going to have the smallest impact on our lives, and so we make that quick, impulsive decision, and that's that. What we really should have been doing was thinking thoughts like, do I really need this? Or, what will this really add to my life? And lastly, the thought-through purchases. These are often more expensive things, like a house, a television, or even a family holiday. Because these things are so expensive, we feel as if they're going to have a huge impact on our lives. And they often do. But this means we take the extra time to process and evaluate if it's really the right choice for us. This type of decision-making makes far fewer mistakes. So, why don't we use this type of decision-making for everything that we buy? Why don't we make sure every purchase we make is the right one for us? I mean, sometimes it only takes an extra 10 seconds to realize, how long am I really going to spend fiddling with this fidget spinner? Here are some real-world examples that might help you to relate. Clicking the Add More Toppings button on your pizza delivery, only to see a whopping $24.99 at the bottom of the bill. Choosing to customize something with your name for more money. Buying an air fryer, an ice cream maker, or even a panini maker that you know you won't really use enough to make it a worthy buy. And lastly, my personal favorite, buying a pair of overpriced sunglasses on holiday at an innocent-looking kiosk. All of these are prime examples of using that quick autopilot mode in our brain. But at the end of the day, what do each of them really add to our lives? do they really make us happier? Or is it just short-term excitement after making a purchase? Here are some takeaways that you can use every day. Next time a choice comes your way, when you can either buy something or decline it, think, how would this really make me happier? Or what would this really add to my life? This will ensure you make the least mistakes possible when you buy things, and it will also ensure the things you do buy truly make you happier. Thank you for listening.
Thank you to Sebastian for that insightful talk. Our seventh speaker will be Elizabeth from the lower sixth. She invites us to expand our understanding of mathematics, inviting us to venture beyond the familiar number line into the dimensions that we cannot see. Let's welcome Elizabeth.
Imaginary numbers have always been believed to be simply that. Imaginary. I remember when I was in year 2, I just got back home from school, I had just learnt my 4 times tables, I thought I was the smartest girl in the world, until my dad asked me, okay, what's 2 minus 3? At that age, I had no clue about negative number territory, so naturally I was confused. And I said, that's impossible. You can't do that. He then asked me, okay, what's 5 divided by 2? Again, I wasn't especially well-versed in the realm of fractions and decimals, so again I replied, that's impossible and doesn't exist. Of course, now at 16, I understand negatives and fractions, but we all once thought that they didn't exist. Similarly, imaginary numbers, numbers that have stumped mathematicians and been considered impossible for over 2,000 years, have only just been proven to exist. And their existence is still hardly acknowledged. I'm going to prove to you that imaginary numbers very well do exist, just in an alternate dimension, a dimension which lies beyond the real number dimension, which humans can't even see nor fully comprehend. Imaginary numbers are based on the square root of negative numbers, which may seem virtually impossible. After all, they don't have a solution within the realm of real numbers. As such, we've all been told that imaginary numbers simply don't exist, and the main reason for that is because they've been given a terrible, misrepresentative name, which suggests that these numbers don't exist at all. In fact, a famous 19th century mathematician called Gauss exclaimed that the mysterious obscurity surrounding these numbers is attributed to the ill-adapted notation, and instead opted to rename positive, negative, and imaginary numbers as direct, inverse, and lateral units, respectively. So from now on, for the sake of Gauss, I will be referring to them as lateral numbers. To prove that lateral numbers are real numbers, we can prove that they follow the conventions of other numbers we already know about. They should follow the basic laws of algebra and arithmetic. And as it turns out, they do, for the most part. They at least follow the laws of addition and multiplication. But we can also prove that lateral numbers are real numbers geometrically. While real numbers live on a one-dimensional number line, lateral numbers inhabit a perpendicular axis, creating a two-dimensional plane called the complex plane. Positional changes on the complex plane follow the same logic as those on a real number line, showing that lateral numbers aren't just some random extra number or hack, but that they do exist, just in a dimension orthogonal to the real number line. Now, you may be wondering, if lateral numbers exist in a dimension that we can't even see into, then what's actually the point of their existence? The short answer is you don't really need to see it to use it. For example, most of modern physics consists of searching for objects or phenomena that are virtually invisible, like the tiny quarks of quantum physics. To put it into perspective, quantum physics consists of studying the behavior of particles that are either very, very small, like the electrons in your electrical wires, or objects that are millions of times colder than the insides of your fridge. And it is chock full of complex and lateral numbers. As it turns out, lateral numbers are a near necessity in modern physics. So, despite their weirdness and obscurity, the oddness of lateral numbers was very quickly disregarded in favor of their usefulness. For instance, lateral numbers are used to model some oscillations, such as those found in grandfather clocks, or in many equations pertaining to waves, be they vibrations of a plucked guitar string, or undulations of water along a coast. Imaginary numbers are incomprehensible to the human eye. Yet, they are becoming increasingly relevant in the modern day. This isn't just a question of whether imaginary numbers are real or not. It also begs the question to all of you, what other dimensions are there that we have yet to discover? And will the basic foundations of mathematics continue to hold as we learn about them? Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Up next, we have Veer from the upper fifth. He'll transport us to the desolate landscapes of Antarctica and explore how this region may be crucial for our planet's future. Let's put our hands together for Veer.
Antarctica, the frozen wasteland, the white desert. A land engulfed by oceans of ice, swept by the coldest of winds, haunted by the harshest of conditions. A place 40% larger than the continent of Europe, but one which not a single human can call home. So, what does live in Antarctica? What kind of life can flourish where the average temperature is minus 43.5 degrees Celsius, where the sun doesn't even show its face for half the year? In fact, Antarctica is teeming with life. Beneath the ice, below the waves, lies one of the richest ecosystems on our planet. One that ranges from the smallest of krill to the largest of whales, from the fleetest of foxes to the most magnificent of penguins. But one that is in peril like never before. Let's say krill, shrimp-like crustaceans, the size of your thumb, and the very foundation of the Antarctic ecosystem, were to go extinct. What kind of impact would such a small species have on our planet? To put it simply, the entire Antarctic ecosystem would collapse. Each ecosystem is like a tower of Jenga. Each piece has its precise function in the tower, just as each creature has its precise function in an ecosystem. If one piece falls, the tower comes crashing apart. Krill numbers have already dropped 80% since 1970 due to climate change and overfishing. With ice melting at 270 billion tons per year, this number will start to accelerate dramatically. Krill feed on phytoplankton for their energy, and the phytoplankton stick to the sea ice for its rich nutrient content. But the Jenga tower stays the same. Without the sea ice, there are fewer phytoplankton. There are fewer krill. Antarctica itself is no stranger to overfishing. In the 20th century, 1.3 million whales were brutally overfished to near extinction. And now, we might just be making the same mistake with krill. Krill are fished for krill oil, a healthier, more sustainable alternative to fish oil supplements. In 1982, in response to increased interest in krill fishing, The conservation of the Convention of Antarctic Marine Living Resources was created in the hopes of saving Antarctic ecosystems. It created krill fishing quotas in order to protect their numbers. But these very quotas have been reached with alarming speeds. In 2023 alone, catch limits of 550,000 tons of krill were reached in 3 months, compared to the average of 6. If krill went extinct, penguins, seals, whales would suffer due to starvation. Moreover, in just one part of the Southern Ocean, krill absorb 23 megatons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to the carbon dioxide emitted by 5 million car engines. Without this keystone species, an already rapidly accelerating climate change would be irreversible. Antarctica itself may cease to exist. What if I told you that there was a new movement to give penguins the same legal rights as humans? What if whales had their own lawyers? Krill were protected under law. With the exploitation of krill only skyrocketing, with the numbers of krill only decreasing, we must think outside the box for inventive, imaginative ideas. In the last 5 years, there has been a bold new movement named the rights of nature, which asserts that nature itself is valued and protected not for our sake, but for the planet's sake. At the forefront of this movement is Klein Earth, an organization supported by millions worldwide, working in over 60 countries. The law has also saved Antarctica from total destruction. Without it, oiling, mining, and the exploitation of resources would have devastated the continent long ago. No more penguins, no more whales, no more krill. This would have happened if not for the campaigning of Greenspace, a legal organization that saved the entire continent from the brink of collapse. The biodiversity of Antarctica has the right to exist, thrive, and evolve without human intervention, and must have protection under the eyes of the law. Krill fishing should be condemned as illegal so that their numbers can start to recover and thrive. Traditionally, the law has preferenced human rights over nature rights, but this is beginning to change. We are beginning to understand that humans are a part of nature, and when nature goes under threat, so do we. We must take advantage of our legal system in order to protect what's left of the Antarctic ecosystem. Only then can we save Antarctica. Only then can the Jenga tower be rebuilt. Thank you.
Thank you, Veer, for that hopeful speech. Our final speaker of tonight is Ethan from the Upper Sixth. Ethan will take us on a journey to explore a fascinating, yet often overlooked state of mind: flow. Let's welcome Ethan to wrap up tonight.
Have you ever been so absorbed in something that time seemed to slow? So focused that nothing could distract you? All while everything around you just seemed to click? That is the power of flow. By show of hands, how many of you have experienced the sensation I just described? For the 70% of you who have, hold on to that feeling, because we'll be diving into what makes it so powerful. For the other 30%, I hope to share tools and techniques on how to really access flow. My most vivid memory of flow was in a recent powerlifting competition of mine. I had just stepped up to the platform to a first attempt deadlift. My nerves were buzzing, my breathing shallow, my heart racing. And as the crowd continued to gaze in anticipation, The judge gave the command, and I pulled with everything I had. Nothing. The bar didn't even move. 5 minutes later, I was back at it with attempt 2, but this time, I was ready. Before the lift, I took a deep breath in. My nerves had calmed. My breathing steadied. I was in flow. There were no doubts, no distractions, no limits. And as the judge gave the command the second time around, 180 kilos, my most weight ever lifted at that point, came straight off the floor. My fascination with flow started when I was just 10. After walking out of exams, I'd always find myself returning from a trance-like state, my mind effortlessly clear after doing whatever Year 5 math involved. Through research and practice, I began to harness this state deliberately, tapping into its ability to eliminate distractions, heighten focus, and boost productivity across all disciplines. Flow is for everyone: athletes, artists, academics. In fact, every single one of you can not only experience flow, but use it to achieve your most productive selves. A systematic review of 25 studies showed that flow induced changes to brain activity, particularly in regions linked with attention, executive function, and reward systems. These changes help reduce your brain's ability to overthink. Anxiety, gone. Doubts, out the window. The girl who's not texted me back yet, forgotten. Activity in these regions is also linked with the production of dopamine, boosting pleasure, endorphins, boosting performance, and norepinephrine, your brain's personal espresso shot. In fact, in one of these studies, where students were given challenging mathematical problems to solve, not only did flow help these students solve these problems, but flow caused their brainwaves to shift from beta, an energy-expensive conscious state, to alpha and theta, the same ones that kick in while you're daydreaming, tapping into that speedier and more efficient subconscious. For you and me, what this creates is a sense of indistractable focus, a heightened sense of satisfaction, and perceived time distortion at your own will. So, by now, the big question on your mind: how can we all achieve flow? One of the major requirements is that the challenge of a task perfectly matches your skill. Too easy, and you'll get bored. Too difficult, and you'll get anxious. Let's take an example. Whenever I'm out with my 4-year-old cousin, he'll suddenly get bored and just refuse to move. My solution: I challenge him to a high-stakes, life-or-death game of tag. I use this exact trick when I'm bored and need to be productive. For basic tasks, you should set a challenge timer. Yes, a challenge timer. Respond to 5 emails, finish this draft, do the dishes, and do it all in just 20 minutes. Just like my cousin, that additional bit of pressure helps to get me moving, and that additional challenge can help set me off into flow. On the flip side, let's take something challenging. Let's take planning this TEDx talk. That wasn't easy. No. That felt as difficult as trying to smell the color 9 or try make this crowd laugh. Writing, memorizing, rehearsing, only 3 weeks to prepare. The mere thought of it was overwhelming. But here's the trick. Take your colossal task and break it down into manageable pieces. For this specific TEDx talk, I broke it down into 4 major pieces: researching, script writing, committing that script to memory, and rehearsing, perfecting my body language and hand gestures so they'd look more like this and less like that. These bite-sized chunks help to counteract that feeling of being overwhelmed, since flow requires that balance between challenge and ease, comfort and discomfort. What you need to do is find that balance. In fact, you can create that balance for yourself. And flow, will be one step closer to finding you. Now, drawing off the works of Andrew Huberman, a Stanford neurobiologist, another actionable step to flow that I like to use is the physiological sigh. This involves 2 inhales, a longer one, followed by a shorter one, and a long exhale with a sigh. I even started my talk with one today. Let's all try this together right now. Follow my hand motions. 2 inhales. And a long exhale with a sigh. One more time, let's get the practice in. 2 inhales. Notice how you feel after this. What I imagine this doing is it recalibrates my nervous system to be ready to launch into flow. Or maybe I'm just a little weird. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the person who coined the term flow, described how people make themselves happy or miserable, regardless of what's actually happening outside, just by changing the contents of their consciousness. Henry Ford said this differently. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So the question stands. How can we shift into this happy, productive, unstoppably efficient, can-do state of consciousness? Flow is the answer. Thank you all, and have a great night.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this enlightening journey tonight.
We hope these talks have inspired you to think differently and to explore new ideas. Our appreciation goes out to Mr. Miller, Mr. Young, and the other members of staff who have been instrumental in making tonight a reality.
And finally, an enormous well done to all of our speakers tonight who have put a tremendous amount of effort into their talks. Let's continue to foster curiosity and share knowledge beyond the classroom.
We have gone on a whirlwind tour of ideas worth spreading. We hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for coming. Good night.